It's going to be real. As we rebuild our economy, we'll also restore our borders. Did you ever see anything like what's coming in through our borders? Criminals, drug dealers, prisoners, people from mental institutions. For 4 straight years, Kamala has imported an army of illegal alien gang members and migrant criminals from prisons and jails, insane asylums and mental institutions all around the world, from Venezuela to the Congo, and she's resettled them into your communities to prey upon innocent Americans. I happen to think it's the worst thing that's happened. I think it's worse than inflation. I think it's worse than a bad economy. I think it's the worst thing that happened to us. 21 million people. When I win on November 5th, the migrant invasion ends and the restoration of our country begins. I have no choice. One of the deadliest and most vicious migrant gangs that Kamala has imported into our country, or to say it a little differently, Kamala, but I don't give a damn if I pronounce it right. Who the hell can pronounce? It's the savage Venezuelan prison gang, Tren de Aragua. Do you know them? Very nice. It's a very nice group of young gentlemen. Very fine people. They were gang members in Venezuela. We let them into our country. By the way, they're taking over parts of cities all over the place. But in Aurora, Colorado, and communities in all 50 states, this gang is terrorizing law-abiding citizens, including taking over multiple apartment complexes. You have to take a look at this. Take a look.
Open borders, deadly consequences.
Border crisis. Record high crossings are putting a strain on cities across America.
It is a full-blown invasion.
Armed Venezuelan gang members storming an apartment complex in Aurora, Colorado.
When people talk about migrant crime, this is what they're talking about. Biden and Harris had created a program to bring them in under humanitarian parole.
I am in favor of saying that we're not going to treat people who are undocumented across the border as criminals.
More than 13,000 illegal immigrants convicted of murder have been released into the United States.
My 20-year-old daughter, Kayla Hamilton, was murdered in her own room. Kayla's murderer was apprehended by Border Patrol crossing illegally into the U.S.
Kayla's murderer had been improperly released into the United States.
Abolish ICE. Yeah, we need to probably think about starting from scratch.
An Afghan national is in custody today after being accused of plotting an election day terrorist attack. The suspect entered the U.S. on a special immigrant visa.
More than a dozen people suspected of being Tren de Aragua gang members right here in San Antonio.
The gang members had been terrorizing the apartment complex.
New details in the murder of Laken Riley. The illegal immigrant suspect, who cops say committed the heinous murder, is a Venezuelan national.
And was paroled and released into the country by the Biden administration.
2 men investigators say are in the country illegally from Venezuela are charged with capital murder in the death of Jocelyn Nungaray.
Court documents suggest a group of men arrested for beating and robbing a Dallas woman last month are members of a Venezuelan street gang.
Manuel Hernandez was booked by Colleyville police just 2 days earlier and released the day before the robbery.
Just so you know, we have the most dangerous criminals in the world in our country now. We never had anything like this. These are the most dangerous criminals in the world. They make our criminals look like very nice people. That's about the only thing you can say. But they are the worst, among the worst people, and they come from all over the world. I thought it was 158 countries. Last week, they reported is 181 countries. They're coming from all over the world. They're emptying their prisons into our country, mental institutions into our country, and they're taking their street gangs and their drug dealers and terrorists are now in our country. 21 million people came in under their rule, and she was in charge of the border. She's a grossly incompetent person. And we can't let this happen. We have to get the hell out and vote and get them out of here. The United States is now an occupied country. How about that? You ever think you'd be hearing that? We're an occupied country. We're being occupied. You know, if you have a 1 million-person army, that's a big army. They've got millions and millions of people. If they just take a small percentage of them, they'd have 6 million man or woman army. Think of that. They've let these people into our country. They're emptying out the jails all over the world, the mental institutions all over the world. They're coming in. I think it's the biggest problem we have. I don't care. Deflation and inflation, it's all bad stuff. But this is, the polls say the biggest problem is our economy, which stinks. The second biggest problem is inflation, which is devastating, worst we've ever had. And the third is our border. I think the border is the first biggest problem, if you want to know the truth. But November 5th, 2024 will be Liberation Day in America. And when I get rid of this microphone at the end of the speech, it's going to be Liberation Day for Donald J. Trump, because I'm blowing out my voice to get this sucker done. I'm blowing out my voice. But I'm going to get through this speech because you're from Detroit. We're going to turn this place around. We're going to make sure that electric current comes into it like it should. Liberation of Donald Trump. Good night, folks. That'll be... That's terrible. But I think it's okay. I mean, you can hear. If I scream like hell into the mic, I think, good for you, not so good for me. But that's okay. That's what my life has been about for the last 10 years, and that's good because we love you. We're going to turn it all around for you. Under Kamala Harris, 13,099 illegal aliens, convicted murderers are on the loose in the United States. Immediately upon taking the oath of office, I will launch the largest deportation program in American history. Have no choice. We have no choice. I will rescue every town across America that's been invaded and conquered, and I will put these vicious and bloodthirsty criminals in jail or kick them the hell out of our country, which is my number one choice. To expedite removals of the Tren de Aragua gangs and other savage gangs like MS-13, which is just as bad. We have by the thousands now. I took them out by the thousands, and they now are coming back in by the thousands. These people, what they've done to our country, I can't even believe it. I can't even believe it. I will invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. That's where we had to go. To target and dismantle every migrant criminal network operating on American soil. We will call it Operation Aurora. We want to pay tribute to Aurora, Colorado. The governor there is a radical left Democrat. He is petrified. I just don't want to walk out of his mansion. And if they come back into our country, it's an automatic 10 years in jail with no possibility of parole. So we keep them out. And I am hereby calling for the death penalty for any migrant that kills an American citizen or a law enforcement officer. Kamala's migrant invasion is also devastating our great African-American community, stealing American jobs, crushing wages, undercutting the voting power of our own citizens, and bringing drugs, crime, and death to our country. You know, we're devastating the African-American population. They're taking their jobs. It's terrible. It's terrible. And also Hispanic. They're taking a lot of Hispanic jobs. And the jobs created by Biden are all being taken by people coming into the country illegally. So, you know, it's terrible. Yet Kamala says there is nothing she would do differently. Listen to this. She'll do nothing differently.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
I stood there on the tarmac watching you check your watch.
The chaotic and deadly U.S. evacuation from Afghanistan stunned Americans and the world and cost the lives of 13 U.S. soldiers.
Would you have done something differently?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
More than 13,000 illegal immigrants convicted of murder have been caught at the border and then released into the United States.
An Afghan national is in custody today after being accused of plotting an election day terrorist attack. The suspect entered the U.S. on a special immigrant visa.
Gut-wrenching new details in the murder of Georgia nursing student Laken Riley. The illegal immigrant suspect, who cops say committed the heinous murder, is a Venezuelan national who crossed the unsecured southern border back in 2022.
2 men investigators say are in the country illegally from Venezuela are charged with capital murder in the death of Jocelyn Nungaray.
A 5th illegal immigrant accused of attacking 2 New York City police officers over the weekend showed no remorse or regret. Would you have done something differently?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
Only 18% say the economy is in excellent or good condition. US inflation has hit a new 40-year high, increasing by 9.1% over the financial year.
The cost of homes have spiked. Home buyers need to earn 80% more than they did in 2020 to afford a house.
Were you the last person in the room?
Yes.
You know, she destroyed San Francisco. She destroyed California along with Gavin Newsom. Destroyed it. Did you say when Newsom said that you're not allowed to even ask for voter ID? If anybody asks somebody for voter ID, it's considered a crime. You know why? Because they want to cheat. There's only one reason why. We want to be very careful. Detroit, if you want to end this disaster, you must get out and vote. You have to get out and vote right now. And with that, I'd like